Hello, I'm Adam Barralet and welcome to my astrological forecast of what you can expect for February and what we can use gifted to us from Mother Earth to help us thrive during this time. Now, it's really interesting the way astrology is playing out in this month because all the significant events are actually happening on the 3rd, 4th and 5th of this month. They're coming one after the other. So this weekend, if you're watching this early on when I've released it, great timing to be prepared for this. So let's look at what we can expect. So first of all, on the 3rd of February, this is when Ceres goes into retrograde. Now, Ceres is the Roman goddess of nourishment. So she was the goddess that would walk upon the earth. She'd put all the flowers on the plants, all the fruits on the trees, and make sure all the grains grew so that humanity always had food and was nourished. What she represents in astrology is she is a dwarf planet. Now, she is just beyond Mars. There's a big asteroid belt with all hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of asteroids there, and the biggest thing within that is actually Ceres. Now, if you love your mythology, she was known as Demeter to the Greeks. So what Ceres represents in astrology is our ability to nurture and nourish ourselves and to feel nurtured and nourished. If you've been watching my videos for a while now, you'll know that when a planet goes into retrograde, whatever she brings and gifts into our life during a retrograde period, she goes on break. And she's going to be on break between the 3rd of February and the 6th of May. During this time, especially at the 3rd of February and around the 6th of May, you're going to start to feel unnurtured or unnourished. You might find that a lover is being less attentive. You may find other people are kind of forgetting about you. You're just feeling a bit like, oh. Now, every retrograde is a course to learn something about ourselves. And what does Ceres actually teach us? Well, if we're not being nourished by the world, you can either have a Suki or you can actually learn how to nurture yourself. That way, if you know what fulfills you and understanding your astrology and knowing which sign Ceres was in when you were born can be really insightful. Knowing what actually makes you feel nurtured and being able to rely on that rather than relying on others means that anything you get from other people in the future is topping up the cup. Rather than I need my lover to do this, I need my family to do this, I need my work to do this in that type of way. So this is where we can lean into some really beautiful gifts from Mother Nature. The essential oil I've chosen is Cassia. Now, an interesting fact about Cassia, you may not have heard of this essential oil, but when you smell it, you're like, oh, it smells like cinnamon. You know when you go to a supermarket and you buy cinnamon, it's in that quill with that little curled up bit of bark? That's not cinnamon. That's actually cassia, which is a bit of a relation to cinnamon. Cassia has that warming, embracing kind of energy, and it's a great oil. You do have to use it carefully if you're popping it on you. It's a hot oil, so you'd have to dilute it heavily, but it's great in a diffuser. If you've got a good brand of it that the company says, yeah, sure, it can be used in cooking. It's great in cooking as well. I actually love a drop of this one in sparkling water. It can be a really nice way. It's got that warming kind of cinnamony flavor and really lovely. Good for balancing out blood sugar levels and different things like that, and the sweetness in our life to make sure that there is always sweetness in our life. Doesn't matter what the people around us are doing. Crystal wise, green jades are really, really great. There's jadeite, there's nephrite jade, there's even, it's not officially a real jade, but this stone here is called Mawsitsit. I've got a video on my channel about it, Mawsitsit, found in Burma. And again, it helps us remember the heart chakra is very much, it's often represented by two colors, green and pink. Pink's about, giving love to the world, and green's about receiving value back to the world. And we have to sometimes channel that value into ourselves and focus on ourselves. So if you're feeling a bit nourished or undernourished at the moment, don't be blaming people around you. How can you do it yourself? That is the lesson of Sirius Retrograde on the 3rd of February. Now on the 4th of February, we actually have a solar festival. Depending on which hemisphere you're in, it'll vary. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, first of all, it is the celebration of Imbolc. Now, Imbolc marks midway between the winter solstice and the autumn equinox, and it translates to mean lamb's milk or ewe's milk or sheep's milk. It's kind of where we start to see the first inklings of the cold weather dripping away. I know in parts of, I've been talking to people in Canada and in Europe, and it's still frigging cold, but you'll start to see the days are getting a little bit longer. There's the first inklings of this time. And this is when we start to focus on the third eye chakra. You know, we've been sitting in winter, we've been hibernating, we've been very solitary and kind of contemplating, what am I here to do? And getting clarifying that vision. Now we bring it down to the third eye chakra where we start to think, so how do I bring my vision into reality? So we use our intuition and our intellect to help our understanding of how the world works to bring in what we want to manifest in our lives in a practical way. Imbolc is a great time. A couple of other things I love to do around Imbolc is I love to welcome the sun into my home. So I'll find an eastern window, I'll grab a little tea light candle, surround it in solar crystals such as citrine and sunstone, imperial topaz, rutile, bumblebee stone, tiger's eye, and each morning I light that candle and welcome in the warmth. We're starting to get a bit of movement. This is a great time to get outside a bit more, start moving again, getting into action. At this point of year, you know, we're getting over the holiday season and we're kind of getting back into regular life. We're getting the blood flowing. This is a really great time to work with Tanzan quartz, and this is the crystal I've chosen this year for Imbolc in the Northern Hemisphere. You know, this is actually the crystal I used when I wrote my book, my first book, Crystal Connections. I knew what I knew about crystals, but I'd never written a book. That's a totally different skill set. The words were in there, but when I popped this crystal on, what I actually found is though a white light kind of appeared above my head, and all that I wanted to say came out as I typed away, and then sentences formed and paragraphs and chapters, and the whole book came into manifestation. One little word of warning with this crystal is I do find that if you wear it too close to bedtime, the ideas kept coming. And I kept on like laying there in bed at night, emailing myself with the ideas. But you know, getting into Imbolc, leaning in, if you eat dairy, dairy foods are traditional around this time, as well as like curries and chilies to start getting the blood flowing, getting that energy warming in. It's not quite action yet, but it's thinking about action in the third eye chakra. Now, the essential oil that's really great is yarrow. Yarrow is a really interesting plant with a really interesting history. Its Latin name is Achillea melliforum, and I may have said that wrong. But Achillea is a reference to Achilles, the warrior, because he would use yarrow to both protect his soldiers or his warriors and also to help with their healing. The mellifolia means 1,000 leaves and kind of refers to how the plant grows. In the East, especially in China, yarrow is seen as being the plant that has the most balanced yin and yang, feminine and masculine, and it's often used in divination as well. So, such as the I Ching, it is said that for the best I Ching reading, use yarrow stalks. Let's tie all that together with yarrow. Divination. We've got harmony. We've got that warrior energy, overcoming demons or overcoming enemies. We've got protection and we've got healing. That really lies in with Archangel Michael. And you know, there's some challenging things happening in the world right now. COVID still has a bit of an influence. There are some countries that have still been in lockdowns and that's been affecting the world. We've got wars that are happening. We've got increased inflation, all those different things that can be hard to get into action. But there are things that we can change and things that we can't. Yarrow allows us and the Tanzan quartz to work with Archangel Michael's energy of overcoming our own demons that stop us from going forward and finding the way forward with the Tanzan quartz. And that's exactly what I think we need to do right now on this Imbolc. Now, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it's not Imbolc, it's Lughnasadh. Lughnasadh is named after a Norse god, Lugh, L-U-G-H, and he was a very, king royal kind of energy. He was very celebratory, he was a bard, and it's to do with music and celebration. This is the festival of the first harvest. It's celebrating the midpoint between the summer solstice and the spring equinox, and the autumn equinox. Did I get that right? Summer and autumn. Yes, exactly. I may have said autumn before for the winter one. Imbolc is halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. This is halfway between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. Have I confused everyone? Possibly. I do have videos on Imbolc and Lughnasadh if you want to dive in a little bit deeper in that. But what's this about? We've had a great celebratory time. We've had the warm days of summer, and yes, it's still going to be warmer, but we'll notice the days are getting a little bit shorter. So this is where we start to take stock on what we want in our lives and what we don't want into our lives. We're going towards that hibernation time of winter. So this is a great time to start cleansing out a few things. A great time to go through your crystal collection and go, okay, I'm not using some of these crystals. I know someone who would like these ones a lot more, and gift them. And there may be other items in your life as well where someone else would get a far more use than you would. A really beautiful thing to do around Lughnasadh as well is to also, give some of what you've maybe earned, if that's your harvest as well, all the beneficial things that you've brought into your life. How can you share that wealth? How can you reach out to the community? Because as we get into those colder months, we're gonna need to lean on each other, in all different ways, emotionally, mentally, financially, all those types of things. So sharing that harvest, being generous is very much an essence of Lughnasadh. Traditionally, we would eat things around here to do with grains and breads. Make your own breads maybe would be a great thing to do. And blackberry pies signify the dying of the sun and the dying or the weakening of the sun god, and are traditional around this time as well. Because Lu is also about the arts, this is a great time to support artists, whether you go to a gallery or a performance or buy an album of someone or something like that. Be inspired, or even get into your own creativity and write a poem or journal or write a song, make up a dance, do a new TikTok sensation, whatever it may be, type of thing, to get that creativity going. We're sitting here in our sacral chakra. We're enjoying the fruits of our labor, and we're expressing the fruits of our labor, which is very much, our sacral chakra is about pleasure and it's about creativity. So really lean into that and allow your expression to flow and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Lughnasadh is also a really great time to make sure that you are stopping and kind of just celebrating your achievements. We're always like, what am I going to do next? What's my next goal? What's my next goal? What's my next goal? And around Lughnasadh is a really nice time to stop and go, I've come a long way in a year. And if you keep a journal, maybe flick back and see where you were a year ago. So sticking with the aura quartzes are quartzes where there's been metals fused to them, natural ingredients in a man-made environment. And I have videos on these as well if you would like to dive deeper into them. But work with your sunset aura quartz. This is a really great one for helping to bring, copper is one of the metals that often forms the sunset aura quartz, and it's fused to it. It's a really great one for copper as a metal of love. Let's bring that love, let's get that love flowing, and the clear quartz that it's embedded on amplifies that. Really, really powerful one to lean into around Lughnasadh. With that, I've chosen wild orange. I think we just need to have more fun, and wild orange is very much about what's fun, what's joyous, celebratory. Bring in that celebration. What can you celebrate about the year? We often, again, look at the struggles that have been happening in our lives and we don't think about, well, actually there have been some good things, and Lughnasadh is the time to lean into that. So whether you're in the Northern Hemisphere and celebrating Imbolc, or you're in the Southern Hemisphere and celebrating Lughnasadh, I'm confusing myself there, then that's what happens on the 4th of February. Now, talking about celebration, on the 5th, we have our full moon, and this full moon is in Leo. Leo governs one really important aspect of life that is often neglected: leisure, pleasure, and play. And we kind of go, that's something that we do once we've ticked off all the other boxes. But how can we bring fun into all of our lives? Because remember, when something is fun, when it feels good, it's actually in alignment with our sole purpose. If you're not having fun, you've fallen off your spiritual path. And so what we do on the full moon in Leo is we think about, okay, well, what more fun do I want to bring into my life, and how can I manifest that? Remember, at a full moon, the sun is on one side of the earth and the moon is directly on the opposite. You have the yin and yang in harmony, and when yin and yang are in harmony, that's where fertility grows, and that's why we birth and create new things on the full moon. The crystal that I've chosen, normally I work with white or clear crystals. Bit of an exception when we're working with Leo. I work with blue topaz. You can see I've got my blue topaz pendant on, and here's another blue topaz here as well. We're all familiar with sunstone and moonstone. They're kind of our everyday sun and moon crystals. What happens if we go up an octave, up a vibration? Then you've got imperial or orange topaz for your sun, and you've got blue topaz for your moon. We know the Leo energy is very much about that bravado, that big heart, that giving, that nobility, all that kind of great fun and joyous and that real lifted fire spirit that this fire sign brings into the full moon energy. This is a really great time to lean into your blue topaz and chase your bliss. That's kind of the word that's coming through for both this Leo full moon. Bliss. How can I have more bliss in my life? And this is a really great crystal to support you in this. The essential oil you can work with, or an absolute, jasmine, is really, really beautiful. Jasmine, again, works with that sacral chakra, again, with that pleasure. It allows us to realize the magic of life and the joy of life. And what I'm always reminded of is the idea of the Creator created this whole buffet of experiences for you to enjoy and to try out, just like a buffet at a restaurant. If you only ate the lettuce, how disappointed would the chef be? And if you're only sampling a small part of life, how disappointed would the Creator be? Something to consider. And Jasmine encourages us to kind of get out and remember the magic of life and not to get stuck in a little rut. So get out there and have more fun. Now, between the full moon, there's nothing too major happening. We have 3 minor feminine astrological bodies coming out of retrograde. They are Sedna, which is a dwarf planet, and to do with victimization. You may feel a bit more freedom around that time, she's around the 10th. Around the 15th, you have Pallas Athena, a major asteroid in the asteroid belt going direct, and that's time to start acting on being more win-win situations and making sure things are kind of unfurling as they should. And Hecate on the 18th goes direct, which means that you should start to feel more confident in your ability to trust your own intuition and your own inner guidance around that time. The final notable astrological event of this month will be the new moon, and this will be in the sign of Pisces. Now remember, Pisces is considered to be the oldest of all the zodiac signs. We start with Aries and go around the wheel till we get to Pisces. And so it is said that the Pisces energy is almost 1/2 in this realm and 1/2 in the other realms. So the Pisces aspect of life governs our spirituality. So this new moon is always around this time of year, and it's a really great time as we get through the holiday period and we're kind of getting back into life and back into motion and doing all our things that we do. And sometimes the spirituality gets forgotten. And this is a great time. The new moon, I like to always treat like a New Year's Eve. What do we do on New Year's Eve? We think about, okay, what didn't work and what do I want to let go of and not bring into the new year? And what do I want to do in the new year? And this is what we do when we focus on one aspect of our lives. So focusing on our spirituality here is a really great thing. This is not a time for magic and manifestation. It's a time for contemplation, consideration, meditation, journaling, that type of thing, kind of that reevaluation. So lean into some really beautiful gifts that you can for this time of what your spirituality is about. You know, crystal-wise, I don't have these 2 crystals with me, but check out my other videos and you'll be able to see them there. The first one, I love working with black crystals around the new moon, Vivianite. So Vivianite is this really interesting crystal, and when it's first found, it's actually clear. And as it's exposed to sunlight, it goes to this emerald green and then eventually lands on this deep blue and deep green colors kind of intermeshed and intertwining together, kind of melding the third eye and the heart chakra. Now, it really helps us to connect back with what we truly want and connect back with that soul level and understand. And Vivianite gives us this amazing infinite patience, because if the soul is infinite, as long as it gets what it wants on its pursuit, it'll wait forever. And so it really helps us to feel that kind of peace and to get clearer on what we want. And I think that's really important around this new moon in Pisces, to focus on that. So you can have a bit of an inward focus and work with Vivianite, or you may want to work with the spiritual realms. You may want to work with the spiritual team, your angels, your guides, your totems, and so on. This is where Black Kyanite can be really great. Now, a lot of people know that blue kyanite. Black is a bit of a rare one, but actually is known as being a crystal of the thresholds. And when you look at the shape, it kind of grows out like a fan and splays out and helps us reach out. Thresholds obviously is where there's a dance between, or an intermeshing between this realm and the other realms. And times of the threshold are considered to be dusk, dawn, midnight, and when the heavy fog or mist can also be times when the realms can be a little bit kind of thinned. The other significant time of the year would be Samhain, which is midpoint between the autumn equinox and the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. So but we're talking about the new moon in Pisces, and this can be a really great time to work with Black Kyanite to help you cross over and interconnect those realms so you can connect with the spiritual realms a bit more. The essential oil, good old sandalwood. There are many different types of sandalwood. They have similarities and they have differences. There's Indian sandalwood, there is Australian sandalwood, but I actually reckon Hawaiian sandalwood would be the one to go for. Why? Well, the moon is feminine in energy, or yin in energy, and Pisces is a yin or feminine sign as well. And I find, I tend to work mainly with Australian, with Indian and Hawaiian sandalwood, those 3, and I find the Hawaiian sandalwood to be the most feminine of the 3. Now, an interesting fact about the sandalwood tree, when you plant a sandalwood tree, or when a sandalwood tree is growing, it can't be just by itself. it must have other trees around it of other species because it will reach out its root system and hold on to them and rely on them for nutrients such as nitrogen and so on. So what happens is sandalwood, and we know that sandalwood has been used throughout the centuries as a spiritual wood, incense, and now an essential oil as well. It helps with connection. It facilitates that connection, but it also is, being a wood oil, it's very grounding as well. So it's really great to ground us in this moment of the new moon in Pisces, ground us in our spirituality. So work with that, diffusing Hawaiian sandalwood. It's really great for the skin, a drop of it, mixed with your moisturizer at night, really beautiful. And guys, I'll give you a tip. The chemical constituents of sandalwood are similar to male pheromones. So guys, when they wear sandalwood, it actually can make them more appealing to those around them. Give that a shot on the new moon as well. Anyway, so that is what you can expect for February 2023. As I said, the next few days are going to be pretty intense with Ceres, followed by Lughnasadh, Imbolc, and the full moon. But listen to what I've said, and some of the messages may feel more in resonance with you than the others. The ones that are resonating to you or that you feel are most impacted in, lean into those essential oils and those crystals. You don't have to do it all if you find that a little bit overwhelming. But remember that whatever is happening to you and whatever's happening in the cosmos, Mother Earth loves you. She's given you crystals, she's given you essential oils. Lean into them, and not only will you survive, you'll thrive. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I'm Adam Barralet. Blessed be.